The reason why I believe that Kam Waters is a false prophet is because
Okay. For both of you, what is suffering and sentience, and does it matter when it comes to animals?
Yeah, that's a great question. Suffering, if we're talking physical suffering, I would say being in pain for an extended period of time. That's probably how I would define it. And then sentience, that's tough to say. I think that the average person defines a sentient being as something cute, like babies, for example, like as a cluster of cells. Are they sentient? A live being, typically one that can make its own choices, would be a sentient being. I think that its basic definition, that's how I define it.
And does it matter when it comes to the conversation about eating animals in your eyes?
I think it does, yes. Yeah.
Okay, you want to reply, and then you guys can go back and forth a little bit on this?
Yeah, my understanding of sentience, to answer that question first, is the capacity for individuality, capacity to suffer, having a central nervous system, neofrontal cortex, all the things that enable an individual to have a conscious experience. And as far as I know, the animal kingdom up to us all has that. I know we're going to probably talk about bugs and some of these other things, which will be fun. But yeah, that would be my answer to that. Was there another question?
And does it?
Let me just tell you guys that before watching this debate, I didn't really think about the definition of a lot of these words that will be brought up during this debate. I had to look them up after, but they both got it wrong. Sentience doesn't have anything to do with making choices or individuality or experience. I looked up the Merriam-Webster definition of sentient because, listen, I didn't know what it meant either, but that's not what it meant. Now, sentient means capable of sensing or feeling, conscious of, or responsive to the sensations of seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, or smelling. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate and go as far as to say, by this definition, then plants would be considered sentient because they are sensitive and responsive to their environment. For example, the acacia tree in Africa, when it feels the giraffe nibbling on its leaves, it responds by releasing tannin, which makes the leaves taste bitter. And not only that, but they communicate with other acacia trees within a 50-meter radius by releasing ethylene gas from their leaves and telling the other trees to release tannin because there are giraffes in the area that are eating acacia leaves. So not only are plants sensitive to their environment, they're responsive to their environment, and they even communicate with other plants around them. Many vegans often bring up the concept of sentience when they argue for the case of not eating animals because animals are sentient. But based on the actual definition of sentience, plants could be considered sentient as well. So I think that people who argue for the consumption of only plant-based products might have to use a different word instead of sentience because I'm not sure if it really is relevant to this argument, whether something is sentient or not, because plants can be considered sentient.
Does it? I imagine your answer is going to be yes. Does it matter when it comes to animals?
Absolutely. I believe in the ethical principle that just so happens to be a spiritual principle through Jesus to the process of doing unto others as you would have done unto yourself. And I consider animals to be others.
Okay, now this is just incorrect. I'm going to just go as far as to say, I believe that Kam Waters is a false prophet. The reason why I believe that Kam Waters is a false prophet is because many things that he says are either not backed up by scripture or are taken completely out of context. Now, in this particular case, he mentioned the golden rule, which basically states, do unto others as you would have done unto you. Now, this is something that Jesus said in, I believe it's Matthew 7, verse 12. Now, let's look at some other versions. The New American Standard Bible says, in everything, therefore, treat people the same way you want them to treat you. The King James Version also uses the word men. Now, I know that these are English translations, and the most reliable source is the original text. So I even looked at the original text, and you can see that the Greek word is anthropos. Anthropos means man-faced, human being, all human beings, or it can translate to people, men, mankind, human. And I know that he knew this because you'll see later on in the debate, he references other translations of the Bible, and he even references the original Greek text and the words and the meaning of those words later on in this debate. So I believe that what Kam Waters did is that he strategically chose the vaguest translation, the translation of the golden rule that used the word other as opposed to men or people, because it helped his argument in this particular case.
What are your thoughts on that?
To others as you would have, done unto yourself. I really admire those that say, I really care about animals. I'm not going to eat animals from here on out because I love animals. And Some might look at me and go, well, you eat a lot of them. You must not love them that much. And I'd say, well, you're probably right. Like, I think you are right. I think the fact that, Kam, you have, and Ellen, you as well, you guys have such big hearts that you refrain from eating animals completely. And my understanding, I know you for sure, I assume you as well, you guys probably do it in a pretty regenerative way. Of all the ways that you could be vegan, I assume that you guys are at the tippy top of this is the best way to do it. And that takes a lot. It's a lot of denying yourself. I'm not there. I think that humans are more important than animals. I think that as a Bible-believing Christian, I do believe that God gave us dominion over the earth. I think that animals are within that. I think that it's absolutely horrendous what happens, like the farm that your mother had went to. I think that happens far more than regenerative, the good farming. And I think that's heartbreaking. I think it's a bit of a catch-22 because, if I had it my way and I said, hey, starting this very second, factory farms exist no more, the world wouldn't sustain. It would cause a lot of issues. It's the same thing with like monocrop agriculture. So I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's terrible for the environment. I also don't think it would be sustainable to stop it overnight. And I think that's why discussions like this are important to how do we move forward and become better.
I really appreciate you being honest with.
I'm not going to lie. That was a pretty poor response from Ray. I don't think that he should have let Kam get away with the, and I consider animals as other statement. Now, either Ray didn't know the other translations or he was being kind and was giving Kam a little bit of leeway. I don't know why he gave him that. As you'll see as the debate goes on and on, Ray gives Kam a lot of ground to work with. And this ultimately leads to Kam taking control of the whole debate, in my opinion. So I think that Ray should have pushed back on that. Ray is correct. God did give us dominion over the earth as human beings. You can see that in Genesis 1:26. So that's probably the best part of his response. But he really didn't develop that idea into anything when it comes to the case for eating animal products. He kind of just left that up in the air.
That share and also saying how you're just not there. And hopefully, I want to preface by all the things I'm about to respond to that in this discussion, I know you're a straight shooter, so we can maybe just probe and ask some of these questions and not just get to like our own personal opinion on something, but some type of capital T truth. And so firstly, I would say I'm glad you mentioned the whole, because I heard you say on a podcast or something that you love animals. And I kind of feel like, which kind of sounds like what you said, that maybe you don't, or you see there's a line there, because saying you love animals and then also eating them is kind of like a cannibal saying they're a people person in a way. If
I understand what
you know what I'm saying. So it's like,
this is also something else that I don't agree with, the way that Ray said, I love animals. Now, there's no way to confirm that he actually loves animals or not. But if that was me personally, of course, retrospectively, I'm looking at this debate from the outside in, and I can think a little bit more calmly than Ray, who is in the debate, can. I would have said something like, I appreciate animals, because I do appreciate animals. I wouldn't go as far as to say that I love animals. I love the pets that I've had over the years, but I don't love all animals. I don't know all animals. You know what I'm saying? So to say that I love animals, or even that I love people, that seems to me to be kind of a vague statement that is used to show compassion for a lot of people or a lot of animals that you don't even know. The Lord Jesus Christ told us to love your neighbor, love the people around you.
It's like, I think there's a little bit of a moral inconsistency there to be able to love an animal, but also eat their bodies and that sort of thing. But you brought so many points in that one thing that I want to cover. So you said that you mentioned factory farming. Okay, so what is it particularly about factory farming that you don't like?
From the moment they're born to the moment they're slaughtered. It's a pretty horrendous, god-awful life. I've seen the documentaries, and it's...
Guys, I'm sorry. I have to skip the part of the debate talking about factory farming. And I'm going to give you guys the reason why I'm skipping this part. Although factory farming is pretty horrendous, and although most of the meat that we consume is from factory farming, when it comes to these types of discussions, I find the factory farming argument to be quite weak. The reason why is because veganism itself is against the consumption of any animal products, no matter how they were produced, no matter how the animal was killed. Vegans just don't want to contribute to the suffering of animals, as per the definition on their official website. If we woke up tomorrow morning and all factory farming was gone, vegans would still be against the consumption of animal products. That's why I'm skipping this part of the debate. But please go back and watch this. I'm not trying to omit anything that I think goes against what I believe. It's just that this type of argument doesn't really do anything for me.
Sounds like because you put in your mind, tell me if I'm saying it correctly, because humans are more important than animals, then that means no matter the level of suffering that you're describing that you seem to not like or disagree with as optimal, it still doesn't matter because humans have free will and should have the choice to eat animals because they are more important than animals. Is that getting that accurate?
That's well said. Yeah, I would place humans above animals.
Okay. What do you think about that?
I think it's pretty clear that humans are unique, that we have definitely certain advantages, our capacity for reason, abstraction, the levels of mirror neurons, communication, the ability to use words, which is abstraction. But the question isn't, I don't think, how different we are, but what difference between us and other animals justifies using them as commodities in any way, really. So is there a particular trait that animals have or don't have compared to humans that justifies the way that we use them?
Yeah. I look at it as a hierarchy, and humans are, above any other species, the most apex predator. And if you remove humans from it, the killing of animals, that happens regardless. And so when I look at humans being at the very top of the food chain, whether with or without our hands, with guns or whatever that's gotten us to this point, us being the apex predator, we have the ability to choose to eat those animals and do it in unethical ways, unfortunately.
Well, I would push on that and say that's kind of a might makes right fallacy, in that just because you have the power to do something doesn't mean that you should, right? Like, I have the power, or you have the power to go subjugate a child or rape someone or do whatever, but we don't do that, right? We know that that's wrong. So just because you have the power to something to do it as an apex predator in a hierarchy doesn't mean that you should. Agreed?
100%. Yes.
And then the second point was kind of, I think, curtailed into that is a little bit of an appeal to nature fallacy. So because it's in the natural world, there are predators and prey, et cetera, are you implying that kind of justifies what we're doing?
I'm just implying that that's life. It's truly the cycle of life and death. That's what makes our world go round.
So there's a lot that goes on in nature, obviously, that we don't replicate, right? As humans, I mean, we have iPads and we're sitting in a house with lights on us and video cameras and everything. Predators in the wild, not only do they eat other animals, but they also sniff each other's butts. We didn't sniff each other's butts when we came in, sort of thing. So I don't think that appealing to nature is necessarily a logical way to look at it. But I mean, if there's something I'm missing, feel free to share. But I just think that appealing to natural order and hierarchy, I don't think really actually holds up under ethical scrutiny.
I understand what you're saying.
Now, when people who eat meat bring up the fact that predators eat prey in nature, vegans are really quick to smack that argument down. The reason why I don't like the fact that they are so quick to smack this argument down is because you have one argument in veganism that says, we're not very different from any other animal. But then when you bring up, well, okay, if that's the case, we see that predators eat prey in nature. They're like, well, there's a lot of things that animals do in nature that we don't replicate as humans. I'm like, okay, so you're kind of blurring the lines between us and animals. You're cherry picking, saying that, oh, we're the same as animals because of this. But then when these types of appeal to nature arguments are brought up, they're like, yeah, but animals do that in nature, but that, we're not justified in doing that. I'm like, okay, so where's the Venn diagram that I can look at where I can see human-specific traits, animal-specific traits, traits that apply to both? Because I feel like vegans tend to oscillate between, we're the same as animals, and, well, just because animals do that in nature doesn't mean we have to do it. That kind of bothers me. Those types of arguments are a cop-out, in my opinion, if I'm being completely honest. And if you disagree, please feel free to drop a comment.
Fundamental disagreement that we have. I get the, just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should do something. I would say that for the vast majority of humans, they're okay with meat consumption, right? Eating animals, even killing animals.
Well, okay. What is killing? Sorry, we're going to get into some of these questions, I think.
No,
right?
this is
Can we
good.
just flow? Okay. What would you, I think it is good to really understand terms a little bit. So what is killing to you?
Taking the life, not breathing, existing no more. No more being sentient. You're dead.
And by the way, I'm not trying to even do a gotcha. I really want to just understand the way,
Yeah.
because sometimes we see things differently. I mean, sometimes we say like, hush up or I'm going to kill you, and we don't really mean it, right? Do you see a difference in like forms of killing? If there's like an accidental death versus an intentional death, premeditated, self-defense?
Sure. Like kill and murder, I would say, have two different definitions.
And what would be the definition of murder?
Murder would be intentionally going out of your way to end something's life. On purpose, yes. Without reason.
Okay. And you said something, or someone.
Animals would be included in that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then how is killing an animal for food not murder?
There's purpose behind that. If I were to kill somebody just because, there's no purpose in that. That's sick and twisted. Killing an animal and honoring that animal. Let's say you eat from nose to tail and you truly steward.
Okay, let's define murder, because I think it's really important to understand the rest of this interaction. Now, I never thought about what the actual definition of murder is until watching this debate and sitting back and thinking about it for a bit. But I consulted the Merriam-Webster dictionary again, and murder is defined as to kill a person unlawfully and unjustifiably with premeditated malice. Now, when I buy meat at the supermarket, take it home, cook it, and eat it, it doesn't apply to any part of this definition. I'm not killing a person. It's not unlawful. It's not unjustifiable. And it is not with premeditated malice. So when Kam says murdering an animal just because we're going to the supermarket buying meat, cooking it, and eating it. That's not the correct word to use, you know. I feel like they really try to gas up how bad the consumption of meat is by using words like enslave or murder and all these types of words to just instill guilt into the meat eater's heart. I think that is not a very genuine way to approach this debate from Kam Waters' side.
You were every piece of that animal's life well. From the moment that it's born, you're raising it, you're caring for it, or shoot, maybe you're just a hunter. And then using every bit of it. I'm talking the bones for bone marrow or whatever, bone broth, the organs, every bit of the animal. And if you want to get crazy with it, you can, use that as clothing. Stewarding that animal, there's purpose behind taking that animal's life. I wouldn't define killing an animal with that intent as murder. I would define it as killing an animal, but not murder.
Okay.
I 100% agree with Ray. He hit that nail right on the head. We are participating in the killing of animals because without that, we won't be able to buy our meat from the supermarket. But when it comes to the definition of murder that we just saw together, buying meat at the supermarket does not apply at all on any level.
But if it's not necessary to kill animals for food, does that change? I know there's reasons why you may think it is, but hypothetically for a second, let's say we came to some agreement here or whatever, that it wasn't necessary to kill animals for food, then would that be murder?
No. In fact, I do agree with you that it's not necessary. I think that humans can, obviously, you guys are both stunning individuals. You guys are very healthy. It's not like you're going to die tomorrow.
Thank you.
That's very nice of you to say. Most of the times we get the people, I don't consider you in that category, of course, but there's like anti-vegans that just would love to pick apart. I'll just malnourish, you're going to die tomorrow. You look sick.
Don't make comments.
No, I don't. Not anymore, no. It's just not worth it.
No, but, you two are prime examples. You said 15 years vegan.
Almost 19 years.
Almost 19. So you guys have done it for a significant amount of time, much longer than I've done carnivore. Clearly, it works, right? You guys are two pieces of evidence for that. Maybe anecdotal evidence, but personally, I love anecdotal evidence. You got to, as a carnivore. With that in mind, I'm agreeing with you that, hey, humans don't have to eat meat, which is what I would resort back to. We are the apex predator. We still have that option, and I don't see it as morally wrong. I wouldn't group that in with groping a child.
Okay, so I would love for you to, make the argument.
When Kam says, even though it's not necessary to eat meat, I'm trying to figure out what he means by necessary. Because if you look at the beginning of this debate, and even later on during the debate, Ray Hicks mentions how he was overweight and how he had knee pain. And when he switched to a carnivore diet, he lost a lot of weight, and within 3 days, his knee pain went away. That just goes to show that he's optimizing his health slowly but surely by eating an animal-based diet. There was a point when Ray was eating nothing but whole foods, plant-based and animal-based. But he saw that when he took away the plants, that's when his knee pain finally went away. Like Ray said, you have to love anecdotal evidence as a carnivore. There are many other anecdotes of people saying that they lost a lot of weight, that their arthritis went away, that they've experienced other health benefits. Me personally, my gingivitis went away on a carnivore diet within like 2 weeks, and bloating went away within 3 weeks. And I was able to brush my teeth without any pain and sit for long periods of time without feeling this pressure in my stomach that was very, very uncomfortable. So when Kam says it's not necessary to eat meat, I'm really wondering what he's trying to get at, because for me, if I want to experience optimal health, that's an animal-based diet. And the same goes for Ray, and the same goes for many people who have thrived on the carnivore diet. Now, when it comes to the vegan diet and people also thriving on that, that's debatable. I think that humans survive on a vegan diet, but I'm not sure if they thrive on a vegan diet. So if you want to thrive as a human, considering our biology and how we've eaten historically, then a carnivore diet would be the optimal diet. But if you just want to survive, then you can get most of your vitamins and minerals from plants. You can't get all of them because most vegans do supplement, especially with the B12 vitamin. That is something that most vegans take. Of course, me being a carnivore, I'm biased toward the carnivore diet, and I don't believe that Kam is being genuine when he says it's not necessary, knowing the benefits that Ray saw on a carnivore diet. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna cut it off right here, and I'll see you on part 2. Please subscribe if you want to see the other parts that I'll be releasing, and like and leave a comment. Tell me what you think of this video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.